So years ago, I let my cousin Greg and his wife Nikki talk me into running a marathon, a half marathon, which is 13.1 miles. And this body here, no, it's not made to run half marathons. It's not really made to run sprints. I was a offensive, defensive lineman in football in high school, and I guess short burst of energy and that's basically what I was made for, not long distances. But I let them talk me into it. It was a good cause, and we're going to run at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And man, I trained and trained for months. I mean, I run every single night, just about. I was running, and I keep adding to it and adding to it, and getting myself in shape uh, for this half marathon. So the day comes, and we're at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and there's thousands of people there, getting ready to run, professionals, everything. And being around all these thousands of people, man, you start getting pretty psyched up. You're ready to take off, almost thinking like maybe you could win the thing. There was absolutely no chance that I was going to even come in anywhere near first. So right before we're to take off, they fly this B-52 stealth bomber over us, and I mean, it looked like it was close enough you could touch it, and I mean, you barely can't hear it. It's like, so I'm really stoked. Then I'm like, when they say go, I'm taking off. Now, my cousin Greg and his wife Mickey, they were both like, you need to pace yourself. You need to pace yourself. You need to pace yourself. And I didn't listen. So, man, I take off. I'm like, gone. And I was with them for just a little bit, I think, and then I'm like, I'm off. I'm gone. And I get to mile 5, and I'm like, I messed up. Probably should have paced myself. And so then I get in my pace, and I'm running. I actually, right before that, I seen some deer, and I'm still like, we like to chase deer around here, so I'm fired up running still. But then I get in that pace, and I'm doing pretty good. I'm running. I think it was probably mile 6, 7, 8, somewhere in there. Greg and Nikki, they passed me because they stayed in their pace. They had run a few marathons or half marathons before this, and they knew. And so they stayed in that pace, and they went ahead of me. And so I get in my pace, and I'm doing really good. And then these speed walkers, I guess, and they got this little walk, and they distracted me because they passed me, and I'm like, man, I ain't gonna let them pass me. So I take off and I pass them. Then I get back in my pace. Then they pass me again. Then I take off and pass them and get back in my pace, and they pass me again. I finally like, you know what? I'm not gonna let them distract me. I'm gonna be focused on the finish line. I'm focusing on that finish line. I'm finishing this race. That's all I'm gonna focus on. So we're running, and I get to mile 10, and now I'm hurting. Like, I am hurting. And I'm like, I'm quit. I'm done. I got a cell phone. I'm gonna call a cab. Surely they'll know where to pick me up here somewhere on Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, because I'm done. I'm like, I ain't doing no more of this. So I had a big pity party for myself. And so I'm like, I'm walking. So I try to walk, and where my leg muscles had been in that rhythm, that pace of running, it hurt more to walk than it did to run. So I had to keep running because it was just hurting too bad to even walk. And I got over my pity party, and I got focused on that finish line. Really focused. And I'm like 10 and a half miles, and it took me probably half a mile to get that out of my head and take off. And so I'm in my pace, and I'm running, and here I am, like the last mile. It's mile 13, and I'm sprinting because I'm focused. I'm ready. I'm finishing this race, and I'm finishing strong. So I'm running, and this is hard, harder than what I thought it'd be. Uh, and my cousin, like, I don't even know, he was somewhere in that mile. He'd already finished the race, and he come back, and he's encouraging me, man. He's like, you got this. And he's sprinting with me. He's already run this thing, and he's sprinting with me. And I crossed the finish line. And I think I averaged about a 12-minute mile, which I thought was pretty good for a big guy. And I finished that race, and, learned a lot. And, and on a Christian life, it's the same way. First of all, our Christian life, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And in uh, Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1, it says, "Wherefore, seeing we also are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and sin which doth so easily beset us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us." And, you know, running that race for the Christian life, like I said, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. And a few things you need to do. One is you need to surround your with people that's going to encourage you, that's gonna fight for you, that's going to push you. And then whenever you do hit that uh, pity party, like I had at mile 10, you're in mile 10, and you're like, man, I'm ready to give up. That's where we got to endure. We're going to go through some pain. We're going to go through some tough times. That's where we have to endure. And then, you know, keep focused on the finish line, because uh, Jesus, you got to keep focused on Jesus, because the finish line's heaven, and you got to focus on Jesus. And I mean, I'm guilty. There's sometimes distractions and stuff. I look away and I get distracted by crazy things of this world. But that's where we got to focus. And you also need to be an encourager to other Christians, and then also, and see, I'm guilty of this too. I've surrounded myself with a lot of good Christian folks that's full of wisdom, and sometimes I don't listen to them. Just like Greg and Nikki, pace yourself. And I didn't listen. But you need to surround yourself with folks like that, that's going to encourage you, is going to pass on wisdom to you, and so you can finish the race and finish it strong. Um, you know, uh, you need to run the race that God has set before you, not what somebody else is doing. Like when I was in the marathon, I was watching what other people were doing, and I was trying to compete with them, or I was trying to, you know, run ahead of this, or I didn't get in my pace. But run the race that God wants you to run, and keep your focus on Jesus, and the finish line is heaven, and you won't regret that. And for my cousin Greg, this is Granny's old Bible. Figured it was fitting to read from this. Whew. So with that, we'll catch you on the next one.